Female discrimination within the sports industry. Here's an overview of the problem. Female sports journalists repeatedly fall victim to workplace discrimination, simply because they are of the female gender and not the male. The sports industry is and always has been a male-dominated industry, so basically, many male sports journalists, as well as the general public, seem to believe that the sports industry is no place for a woman. It is not just the people within the sports industry. The public is also guilty of the same thing. The sports industry discriminates against women by disrespecting them and assuming they are not knowledgeable when it comes to sports. The sports industry has formed this belief that women cannot meet and successfully fulfill the requirements of a sports journalist. This is proven by how the sports industry treats women sports professionals and journalists. For starters, women often receive less pay than men, yet both the women and the men put forth the same amount of effort. Another thing, the male sports journalists are not given vital roles in the workplace. From less pay to just throwing it to commercial, the women of this industry are not valued and are underrepresented. Here is a chart stating the statistics of the male to female ratio for sports journalists. As you can see, males take up 89% of the industry, while females take up just 11%. This is a huge gap. This graph to the left shows that the sports industry is indeed a male-dominated industry, which leaves very little room for women to grow and exceed the expectations. Explanation of previous solution number 1. Back in 2017, Nike launched the Equality Campaign. This campaign was a bold call for equality across the board. Nike used well-known athletes to promote equality through videos and commercials. Nike's description of the campaign stated, "The Equality Campaign encourages people to take the fairness and respect they see on the court, pitch, playing field, and other sporting venues to translate them off of the field." This explains that Nike acted and uses its platform to seek change throughout the sports world. Nike's campaign did not focus solely on female sports journalists, but it acted as a wake-up call for the public to become more aware of the inequalities in the sports industry. The sports industry also acted by hiring more women. The sports industry decided to take action by hiring more women. There has been a noticeable increase among female interest in the sports industry. A credible sports writer stated, "The increased interest in hiring women is reflected in some sports-related industries, but not all," explaining that there is in fact a new interest for women in this industry. Hiring more women helped create a better, more diverse work environment for female sports journalists. However, it did not eliminate the issue for female discrimination. My solutions. Solution number 1. Promoting women and gender equality. Promoting women and gender equality throughout the sports industry would help create a better work environment for all sports journalists and professionals. This could also help persuade people to be more open to new views about women in sports. Both promoting women and gender equality will help create a positive change. The industry would use athletes and their platforms to promote women and gender equality. These major athletes have a great influence in our society. Solution number 2. Discrimination training. By completing discrimination training, the sports industry would be raising awareness about the ins and outs of discrimination. This means that the employees within the sports industry would know how to prevent and stop discrimination, along with what to do if they witness discrimination. Most importantly, this training would make them aware of the effects discrimination has on individuals. Another thing, this training would cover what would happen if they were to violate the industry's discrimination rules. This solution would be most effective if the training was completed through the orientation process as the employee is entering the workplace. Solution number 3. Give females more airtime, vital roles, and equal pay. The sports industry should pay women and men equally. It is known that women are paid less because of their gender. This is unfair and degrading. By giving women equal pay, vital roles, and more airtime, the sports industry would be promoting respect. This would help women gain respect from their co-workers as well as the public. The specific components of these three solutions would be money and feasibility. All three of these solutions are realistic and logical, but most importantly, these solutions are fairly inexpensive. Promoting women and gender equality, discrimination training, and giving female sports journalists more airtime are very good solutions because they help in more ways than one. All three of these solutions address the issue all around and not just one part. These solutions would be very beneficial for the sports industry and would cause a positive change. These solutions are feasible. They will require some funding, and the sports industry can receive funding from the athletes who seek to be proactive with equality movements. Also, if the sports industry were to use athletes to promote this, they would have to pay the athletes in some way. A big thing to consider when discussing feasibility is that these solutions are all pushing for a change of mindset, which is hard to do because people are allowed to have their own thoughts, beliefs, and opinions. After all, this discrimination, there has been an evident interest in female sports journalists. Unfortunately, such discrimination and inequalities are still present in the industry. Women will continue to fall victim to these heinous actions. The sports industry needs to act and create a change within its industry. If the sports industry doesn't act, we could see a decrease in women's sports journalists as well as women's sports professionals.